Alright, everybody. My name is Calstonian. I'm the lead developer of the Heirs of Elendil submod for Third Age Total War Divide and Conquer. And we've gathered all the developers, almost all the developers, here together today to present you guys with this little video about the work that's been going on the mod, what we're currently doing, what we finished doing, and maybe even some plans for the future. And also, I would like to just introduce everybody here. Before we get started into the mod, or maybe in the process of going through that. I'm not really sure what the best way to do that is. But, yeah, you guys already know me, and I guess
I don't know
this
you.
is Gene. So, anyway, Gene, why don't you introduce yourself?
Well, hello, I'm Jin Steele. I've been helping on the mod for a long time. Well, not as long as Kelly because he literally made the mod. I couldn't tell you my set of skill because it's half limited, half decent. But yeah, I've been helping there and trying to get my skill improved into mapping, modeling, and also I'm currently working with Evan on an entire rebalance of all the unit in the game.
Yeah, we'll come
I guess
back to
that leads up to me. Hi, I'm Heaven. I joined mainly along with Vision to help assist in the multiplayer pricing, since we would like to play this in multiplayer. But I've been helping out with here and there, ranging from helping with compatibility patches to helping Jin with balance.
My turn, I suppose. I'm Eisen. I make like halfway decent models sometimes by stealing other people's assets, and that's about it.
Well, at least he's honest. No, but that's only half true. He does get permission to use the mod.
Well, I don't ask, but they're free, yeah. Let's assume that, yeah.
Okay, we asked for the permission to use the models.
Okay, hi everyone. My name is Stefan. I'm Kurtzko on Discord. I am here mostly working around the scripts, the coding part. I'm not an expert at modeling really, and that's about the most I can do. I try to help in any way I can with the scripts, and I also.
That's better than 90% of us.
I also had some various new ideas which we're going to introduce in the future. I hope as soon as possible.
Yes, so just to amend that introduction a little bit. So I've been writing a lot of scripts, but I kind of half-ass it when I write scripts. And Kritzko, if I'm pronouncing that correctly, he fixes everything. So
it's mostly what I did so far, yeah.
We also have Vision that's been helping with the multiplayer balance of the mod. He's gonna have a big job to do once we're done with the balance patch because all the prices are gonna be broken, that's for sure. With Heaven, we also have El Monstro helping for everything that's a sound overhaul, and he's been importing his mod that he made for DAC in the past into the next version of Heirs of Elendil.
Yeah, he's been doing really good work. So audio overhaul's already ported in. That's probably the most significant change that's happened in the last week or so. So yeah, let's jump right in. The major change for the next version of the submod is the hot seat mode. And you can't really tell, so Gene, if you go to the campaign selection menu, you can't really tell that it's in hot seat mode, so it looks just like the single player campaign selection. But you can actually select multiple factions to play as. So the reason that we put the campaign in hot seat mode is for the unification of Arnor. So when you unite Arnor as the Adine faction, you will literally be playing as a completely new faction. And there are a lot of things that entails. among which the faction name changes, the icon, the banners, the strategy map color of the faction, the user interface, the culture changes for the faction. All of the unit cards, or not all of them, but a significant part of the roster's unit cards will upgrade automatically. Strategy map models for all of your characters, building, images, and text descriptions, all of that can be changed. And in the course of updating the mod to be compatible with hot seat mode, and I'll explain exactly what we mean by compatible with hot seat mode in just a moment, but in the course of doing that, which took about a month's worth of work, there were just so many bugs that we came across, but we also found a few benefits. So mode is the ability to just change the faction name just as easily as you would change a settlement name. So actually, Gene, maybe if you just start up in a Dying campaign,
Yep,
we
loading.
can show people what we mean. And the other big benefit of hot seat mode is for kind of those more role-playing oriented campaigns, which I know a lot of Heirs of Elendil fans are interested in. You can actually switch control between factions. And so that, obviously that's what makes it possible for us to do the armor script, but you can also do that just through the console. And so I think that will add a lot of,
Possibilities.
fun. Yeah, a lot of possibilities, especially to the late game. It's not something that I would advise doing early in the campaign. And this comes back to what I was talking about with what we mean by hot seat compatible. So the campaign is set up to work in hot seat mode, but we don't advise that it be played. Probably when 2.0 comes out, it will probably not be truly hot seat compatible in the sense that if you try to have multiple human controlled factions starting on the map, some scripts will be broken. And we have not gone thoroughly through the entire script file to fix all of that. So if you are switching, faction controls, that's something that is probably best done later in the campaign when all the scripts have run their course. If you simply go to your faction scroll, so you go through, I'll also mention that as you're going through the introductory messages, we've grouped all of the optional settings into a single message. So if you want to change any of those optional settings, you just click decline and it will present them individually. Otherwise, it saves a lot of time to just hit that one accept. So yeah, if you go to the faction scroll, you can just change your faction name. I think the other scroll that you had open. You're looking at the rankings. There you go. You see how easy that is? You can just change it to Kingdom of Orthodyne or whatever you want, really. And you can also do that if you go to the diplomacy scroll. You can rename other factions as well. It's pretty cool. So that solves a problem that we had with the successor kingdoms, because we were talking about maybe using unused faction icons, like for the Scripps faction, for Root Hour or Orthodyne or what have you. And we decided not to do that because, the faction ranking scroll that Gene just had open, it bugs out and shows all of those, non-existent factions. So essentially, without using the bash file, which is just a collection of console commands that will automatically swap out game files, without doing that, we cannot change the faction icon or the faction name or anything like that automatically for the successor kingdoms, Orthodyne, Carlon, and Root Hour. But fortunately, because we're in hot seat mode, you can literally just you can open your faction scroll and just rename your faction, which is pretty cool. The major scripts are shortcutted. They have been scripted in as shortcuts so that it makes it easier for us to test the effects of those scripts. Gene, do you remember the shortcut hotkeys? I don't know if that's something that we should start off the video with, but
I think that
mean,
it should be when we get to each individual script.
okay. Yeah, that's a good idea. But the thing is, we're going to have to reload the campaign.
That's fine. That's fine. I need to load fast anyway.
Yes, that's true. I think we will have to reload the campaign for the Successor Kingdoms. Oh, you could select Aragorn real quick. He's chilling over there as a diplomat. You should get his message. So, yeah, this is basically the extent of what has been going on with the Strider quest. That's not entirely true. The quest is actually complete in the sense that you can go to Umladris and he will turn back into a general. But none of the stops along his quest have really been scripted in yet. And I was supposed to be working on that today, but I'm just lazy and just procrastinating with this. But the groundwork for the script is done. What else is there to talk about? The Edain faction itself, I wrote a text blog on ModDB about the Edain faction, and so you guys already had a preview of that. Basically, the Bree faction has been combined with the Northern Dunedain faction. And, I don't know, Gene, do you want to chip in on that note? I think that was your idea. I think that way back, months and months ago, that was your idea.
That will be correct. So pretty much the big idea about merging both of them was mostly we couldn't actually feel really a need for Bree as a faction as itself in the current state of the mod because it wasn't adding much beside a buffer region between you and your southern opponent. And in the case of what we were going to do, by merging them together, it pretty much means that as Edain, you actually play as Bree, but you also have Dunedain General and Dunedain units to be more like your Dunedain side of things. But those units cost a lot to have and to maintain compared to the cheap militia Bree unit that you get at the start.
Right, you can probably show that if you select Bree and take a look at what is recruitable. So you start out with these two militia units, which may or may not survive into the final version. But you also have the ability to build. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I was about to say, if I remember correctly, if you don't pick a Successor Kingdom, you pretty much get more committed to the Bree path. Or am I wrong about that?
Sorry, can you ask that again? I got a message on Discord that was concerning. What was it?
Yeah, I was saying, if you didn't commit to any of the Successor Kingdoms, you commit more down a Bree path, where you get...
Right, so there's an upgrade. So if you go into the building browser and you look for the town hall, there's an upgrade for the town hall that's called the Breland Council Hall. And building this building tells the game that you do not plan on uniting any of the Successor Kingdoms. So the town hall is, or I don't know if you can, maybe you can't see it on the list yet because it only unlocks after a certain, I think it's like 10 or 20 turns. Then it becomes buildable. Yeah, it doesn't unlock yet because if you build it accidentally, then you won't be able to unite any of the Successor Kingdoms. So what the town hall, it's a shame that we can't see it there because it's locked behind the script.
Is the audio cutting out
it
for you
has
guys?
its own user interface and everything. What's that?
Was the audio cutting out for you guys?
Oh yeah, you
I don't
cut for
know,
a second, but it's
it's
fine.
Connection.
Yeah, so if you build that building, then it essentially tells the script that you are planning on playing as Bree / the Free Peoples of Eriador. And what that does is it'll unlock the unique Bree things. It makes militia train faster. It unlocks the Breland Embassy building, which I talk about briefly in the text blog, which is kind of like Bree's Beacon of Hope type deal. That's an interesting building, but I don't think that there's an easy way for us to show that as on a preview.
You should probably mention that by choosing Bree, you're basically choosing to play Dark Souls. Like, it's gonna be hard as shit, right?
Yeah, it's the Bree units are not the best. I mean, it's kind of like in DAC, but unlike in DAC, there are no ridiculous merchant themed units. We didn't go down that route with Bree. So there's like, I think in DAC they added a halberd wielding or crossbow wielding unit.
It was,
or something like that.
They had a halberd crossbow unit. They had a two-handed warhammer unit. And
Yeah, that one doesn't exist in HE. I think we took all of Bree's best units and basically gave them to Cardwell. So, and we'll get there. Hopefully, we get there in the course of the video because Cardwell's been changed completely. So Bree retained some of its retainers units. I'm not sure there's not much more to say about Bree.
We can go to the next one.
Yeah, what is the next topic?
The kingdoms.
Kingdoms. So I guess we'll start with Rudauer, because why not? Rudauer is probably the coolest of the three kingdoms currently, and that's thanks entirely to the work of Eisen. So,
thank you, Ivan.
yeah, so I'll just give a brief introduction and I'll just turn it over to him. So basically, nobody played Rudauer in version 1 of Heirs of Elendil. I don't think. I'm not aware of many people playing Rudauer. And that's basically just because, the successor kingdoms in version 1 basically were just you capture some regions and then you unlock some units and hooray, and then you go to Arnor. And so what we've done for version 2 is we've tried to make the successor kingdoms feel unique from one another so that they will actually play as if they're their own faction. And so Rudauer is very unique from the other two, and in fact in the entire game, because it has its own religion. It actually uses the heretic religion, which has been renamed Hillman.
And yes, we have fixed the issue with the heretic religion causing public order issues.
Yeah, that was actually as simple as just changing a single value in one of the files. And actually, DAC had a bug with that. I think I reported it to R here. There was some kind of bug with the heretic religion's unrest modifier. Anyway, yeah, you can see the little Hellman symbol.
The thing about the heretic religion, it wasn't necessarily a bug, since it was meant to make it so harder to control the actual regions that have heretics.
Yeah, there are no heretics, obviously, in DAC. And,
yeah, so obviously the feature no longer mattered, which is the reason why we could use the actual religion and fix it up.
Yeah. So it's pretty unique. I mean, I sprinkled the heretic religion kind of around the map, and we've completely overhauled a bunch of things about the strategy map, and one of them is the religion. So there's heretic religion that, or I guess we'll just call it Hillman from religion from now on. It's kind of sprinkled around the map, mostly in kind of mountainous areas or hilly areas. And so yeah, you won't just be completely isolated as playing as Rudauer. You can find a little bit of your cultural base around the area. Obviously highest in Rudauer itself. But yeah, all three of the successor kingdoms. So Cardolan has the middleman religion culture. It's confusing because in the files, it's religion, but in game they call it culture. So Cardolan is the middleman culture, Rudauer is the Hillman, and Arthedain is 100% Dunedain. And the Breeland is a mixture of, it's 20% middlemen and 80% Dunedain. And Rudauer is actually, their culture is Hillman, but they also have Hronodine race traits. So the Hronodine name is supposed to be the Dunedain settlers of Rudauer early in the Third Age, when Arnor was expanding eastwards towards the Misty Mountains. And the name Hronodine comes from the fan fiction, maybe for a role-playing game, or some Lindiferian, or however you pronounce that. It comes from somewhere like that. But it was a pretty interesting concept, and it allowed us to do another 2080 split between Hronodine and Hillman. So there's kind of a little bit of symmetry there between the other successor kingdoms. So yeah, you can see there the objectives for uniting Rudour. All of the objective maps have been redone. The map of Eriador has been redone, so eventually we'll toggle get the changes to the strategy map. And yeah, you guys. So when you the pathway for uniting all the successor kingdoms has been completely overhauled. So in the previous version, you had this deal where you would have to defend Fornost, and then you send a scout to Carndum, and then you collect all of your best generals in the Weather Hills region. And it's kind of an annoying script. I only played it a couple times, to tell you the truth, and I found it annoying each time I played it. And so what we've done is we've gotten rid of that, and we've made it so that, assuming that you haven't built the Breland Council Hall, you simply have to capture one of the regions in any of the 3 successor kingdoms' zone of influence, their historical area. And then you'll be offered an option to start the pathway for that kingdom. And when you start the pathway, your religion or your culture in-game changes. And you will get a unique general. So in the case of Rudour, Cordovan is the unique general. Now he has a new, more reasonable icon. Wow, that's something else.
Yeah, I did not
Okay.
expect that.
That is, yeah, that's a bug. So that's not entirely unexpected, I guess. We're guessing that there are going to be all types of. Oh no, that is expected actually. That's the so when you start, that's actually something that we need to talk about. When you start the pathways, they're rebels for the. So like if you start the Arthedain pathway, Rudour rebels will attempt to take the regions of Rudour from you if you're uniting Arthedain. So it'll be difficult for you to retain control of Arthedain without like garrisoning all those settlements for some reason, which would be a waste of resources if you're trying to unite Arthedain. And vice versa for Rudour. So since Gene has started the Rudour pathway using the shortcuts that we scripted in, the Arthedain rebels will attempt to retake his regions, but the one for Bree probably shouldn't exist since that's a starting region. That reminds me. So, yeah, we can fix that.
And for those who played Rudour back in 1.2, I do not believe we're going to be having the insane Arthedain Knights anymore. So you won't have
they're still
3 groups of Arthedain Knights.
Yeah, they're definitely still there. They just don't spawn in the middle of your base. They spawn in the region.
No, I mean insane as in stat-wise. Insane.
Oh yeah, that's true. In fact, if you break off your alliance with Imladris and you ally with Ongmar as Rudour, then fun. That's when the real fun starts.
You might have to say that again. You cut out real bad there.
Oh, well, that's okay. I was talking about a kind of an Easter egg, so that's probably not the worst thing that I cut out there. What else is there to say? I forgot. I was supposed to turn this over to Eisen. Can we, like, take it to the battle map or something?
Of course.
I guess we have to reload the campaign anyway to show the other successor kingdoms. You're gonna have to set the era to. Oh yeah, we can take this opportunity. For custom battles, all of the units in the game, you might want to set it to grassy plain or something, and time of day, medium or middle of the day or afternoon. For all of the factions, we've divided all of their units into tiers, like in vanilla Medieval 2. So if you set the tier too early, you're only going to have the units that the faction starts with. And if you set the tier too late, then you have everything. So I think, yeah, we previewed these units on MyDB, but we may as well talk about
Show them an actual gameplay.
Yeah. we could probably cut this part out as well.
Yeah, I think we have all the unit here. Want me to launch it or no?
Do they have the armor upgrades, or are they just alright? I forgot
Which
if I
ones?
haven't made up. I forgot if I haven't made upgrades for them.
The Hieronodine
And
units
yes,
don't.
Azago, we are aware that his mic is dying. We have informed them.
Whose Mike?
Yours.
Yours.
Oh, really? Well, that
Yes.
sucks. Is it like cutting in and out?
Yes.
Yeah, likely it's not too bad. It's not as bad. Sometimes it just go away, then it come back like literally fine. Shall we actually show the unit or not? Since it's already in the devlog.
I mean, Eisen, what do you think?
What are we talking about? What unit?
Previewing the Successor Kingdom units. I guess we can only really do Rudar because Orthodine's unit. Well, no, we can do Orthodine as well. So we do Rudar and Orthodine.
I can show a picture of Cardolin. That's about it. I haven't implemented them yet.
No, that's okay. Don't worry about that. But
Let me start a game really fast then.
alright.
Units, await my orders. Show an Hillman might. Me, Hillman. Forth from the hills. Hillman might. Forth from the hills. Forward. Guards to me, Hillman.
I'm just trying to make sure I'm not mixing them. I'm pretty sure that's supposed to be the order of tier.
Yeah, so the way that the Rudar units unlock is pretty similar to the first version of the mod. Basically, when you start the pathway, there's a random chance that you'll unlock one of the units after each region that you capture.
Nice.
So pretty much you have, yeah, I think it was a dryer. Pretty much you have your base unit, you have your base cavalry, you will have your your base spearman unit, you will have your base range unit, which is going to be a javelin unit. Each Successor Kingdom will have their own ranger type of unit. In this case, it's going to be the, I can't pronounce the name, but the rangers, the R9 rangers, that will be pretty much their ranger unit. So it's the equivalent of Dunedain, but for that, the Rudar pathway. Then you're gonna have your upgrade here for your more like normal mainline sword infantry.
Yeah, that's just real quick. That unit does come from Reforged. Yeah, that comes from 3rd Age Reforged. The Hieronodine Ranger. No, our Ranger units are not body piercing because that would be super OP. Heaven, remind me, which units are body piercing aside from siege weapons?
The only units that are body piercing are the Gurvalying, whatever, the elves that kill everything, the and Ended White Elite. Ended White.
Is that confirmed that they actually body pierce and it doesn't just say that in the EDU?
I see body pierce, but due to the way javelins work, it's very iffy.
Yeah, that unit might not survive. So if you take a look at the Troll Hunter unit that's been around, the Troll Hunter unit is also from Reforged, and that's been around since version 1. That unit is basically a clone copy of the Enedwaith Elite unit. So one of the two are going to get a change up.
Actually,
Probably.
the Ended White one is a two-handed melee, and the Troll Hunter's a spear and shield.
Oh, really? Yeah, but I mean, aesthetically, they look very similar.
The Ended White one doesn't have the huge-ass chest plate, or in slightly different colors.
I will let people judge for themselves.
So pretty much we have those big guy with a axe as a shock infantry. We have the more upgraded cavalry here. It's all light cavalry. Well, this one is classified as a heavy cavalry, but balance-wise, it's probably going to be a light cavalry. It's not a shock cavalry. It's meant mostly to hunt other cavalry, that kind of stuff, than actually being a charge one. You have your troll hunter, as you said. They might not stick around. We're going to see how it goes with them. And you have those, which are axe thrower for Rudar. And they change for, if I remember correctly, a two-handed sword.
Yeah, definitely.
So that's pretty much your unit for your Rudar pathway. Shall we go to
I don't know.
Arctine? You want to say something, Eisen?
I just wanted to talk about like the idea of the units, but it's not that important. It's like just think of the show Vikings, and like that's the inspiration, but just like in brown.
So Vikings but brown. Good to know.
We kind of wrote that into the unit descriptions as well, that they're supposed to be raiders and those. I was actually on board with an even heavier Scandinavian look for the unit, but I think it turned out fantastic. Eisen did really, really good work on these. You know, Eisen, do you have any plans for what to do with the axe? Because I know the axe model comes from this Veil of Anduin unit.
Sorry, say again.
So the I think the Ronodine Huskarls, I think the guys with the gigantic axes, their axe model comes from this Veil of Anduin unit. Are we gonna change up that unit, or?
I personally have to say I'm pretty happy with it, but we can change it.
I personally don't mind, since you only see that axe on one other on the elite unit for Anduin axe guy.
Right. Yeah, this is kind of like the Troll Hunters and the Enedwaith Clan Guard, or whatever they are. They look similar in my mind because just the helmet. Right? I think that's basically what it comes down to.
Yeah,
just the
it's
helmet.
literally only the helmet looks similar.
Yeah. Yeah, you win this round, Heaven.
Of course I do.
Shall we go to Arctine?
Yeah, let's do it. Do you want to just toggle there? So we can just take a look at the regions. Arctine is a good excuse to take a look at the region changes, the mapping changes in the north of Eredor. So...
You want me to do what, sorry?
Sorry? Okay, so Arctine. Arctine has probably gotten the least work of all the successor kingdoms, because it's the only successor kingdom that can unite Arnor. So Cardolin and Rudar cannot go up to Arnor, so we had to devote a little bit more energy to making them feel unique. So each of those factions gets a ton of new units and new buildings. But Arctine, their whole deal is that they have the ranger units. So all of the kind of ranger style units, the wardens, the spearmen,
The ranger specialist.
the Dunedain cavalry, all those units are locked behind Arctine now. And you won't even get them if you just stick with Bree and you do the Breland Council Hall pathway, and you just do Bree all the way to Arnor, you will not unlock some of those ranger. I think. I might be lying about that. Sorry, are you trying to say something?
You okay, Evan?
Yeah, no, my tried to grill inside the garage and didn't close the garage door. Dog almost got out.
Okay, so I'm having some technical difficulties.
All right, that's solved.
Yeah. Arctine, so can you toggle fog of war and just show the maps in the north of the radar, or the regions rather? Right, so the Shire was combined into a single region, and those regions were kind of moved to the north of the radar. And this is basically to facilitate a conflict between Arthedain and Angmar. So there are a few more regions up there for you to play around with. A lot of them have been renamed. The big castle was in the Arthedain lowlands. I don't even remember the original name of that region. That has been moved to Athlin, so Athlin is now a castle. And I figure that makes a little bit more sense because Athlin is kind of like on the road between Angmar and Fornost.
And it was literally purposeless to go and grab those little settlements beforehand.
Yeah, so this is. I don't understand this. Emerald Warden is asking, will you be able to edit the faction meeting? I don't know.
I was trying to type in the answer, but no, you will not be able to edit like what faction ends their turns, whatever. But in the beginning of the campaign, you will have the options to select which scripts are on by default, because scripts are what determines our turn times and such.
Yeah, that might help a little bit. I think most of the heaviest scripts are not optional though. Well, that's not true. The garrison script is optional. The money
The
script is
garrison
optional.
script
Those are
and
both
the
pretty-
ring script are the two heaviest scripts as far as I'm aware.
Okay, so that would be a good test for us to do is compare the turn times. Declining those. The turn times have not been super ridiculous though. I think at least on my computer, my turn times are about 40 seconds.
Which is about 10 seconds more than Dax.
Yeah. So.
Well, if we could check it, if we actually look at it right here, after turn 2, of course, because turn 1 is pretty much a giveaway that's going to be longer since all the auto expansion and everything. It take pretty much 15 seconds on my computer, I think.
Yeah, turn 1 takes me about a minute. And that's there's kind of a little bug with the auto expansions. If you have multiple human controlled factions, the second human faction will have all of the auto expansions happen at the beginning of their turn. So their first turn takes like 2 or 3 minutes, which is kind of annoying. Which is another reason that I recommend that people not play it on hot seat mode from the beginning.
Honorable, glorious victory! My lord,
Oh.
our courage and honor have conquered.
What else is there to say about Arthedain? Arthedain's, I think I already wrote the dev blog about Arthedain. Their focus is law and order, cultural conversion, because most of the regions, the only regions on the map that really have Dunedain culture outside of Gondor are the central-most regions of Eriador. So the North Downs, the Hills of Elendil, the Breeland, and that's basically it. The Weather Hills, I think, has some, and the Angle as well has some. But in order to be able to train your units anywhere else on the map, you have to invest in culture buildings. So, and we also, that was another thing that was, I guess you could call it an overhaul. We've boosted all of the cultural conversion rates by +1, basically across the board, so that your culture buildings actually do something in a reasonable amount of time.
Which will be very beneficial for those people who do not enjoy long games.
No glory in hiding like
Yeah. And Arthedain gets bonuses on top of that.
my lord.
So you'll notice that you stop getting the middleman traits when you're on the Arthedain pathway or having United Arthedain. You get 100% Dunedain generals. And that's nice because for the Edain faction, they're split. So there's the strategy map models and everything is split. Okay, so you've united Arnor, which I guess is the logical conclusion of every Arthedain campaign.
Yeah, pretty much, because there's
Wow.
not much to talk about Cardano right now because the dev blog has not been released about it yet. So I guess we can keep that for a future dev blog.
Yeah, that's probably a good idea.
Yeah.
So Arnor, this is kind of the main deal of version 2 is what Gene just did. So you'll notice the icon changed, the strategy map color changed, everything changed. And here you have your testing even before I have the Reunited Kingdom. No, you're supposed to scroll down to the bottom of the
Oh, well,
Denied.
I can redo it. I can redo it for you.
Well, anyway, that was the Reunited Kingdom petition thing. Yeah, so just you're gonna have to now go to turn 2 because the Arnor unification doesn't work on turn 1.
Fine, it's fine.
Oh my gosh! All right, so the little shortcut script that we have, it cuts out the video, and we in version 1 of Heirs of Elendil there was no video when you united Arthedain, but for version 2 we put in the original vanilla video from Third Age Shadow War, and that video is just god awful. No offense to whoever made that video. I'm imagining that whoever made it is like watching this. But it's just it assaults the senses. And so hopefully we can find the time eventually one of us will figure out how to make better videos.
I
than that.
think I broke the game.
Oh my,
God.
yeah, you did.
Damn it.
That's interesting. Okay.
Yeah, you broke the game. Yeah, you're gonna have you actually are gonna have to restart the game because the last faction you were playing as was Arnor.
Yep.
So we're just getting all of the bugs out of the way, like all of the major bugs. So that's a pretty good one. That's really the only game-breaking bug that I know of, is that if the last faction you play as is Arnor and then you try to start another campaign, that's what happens. Gene just showed you. It just bugs out. The campaign just completely bugs out. And the reason that happens is because are you using the right version? Oh yeah, you are.
I hope so.
I moved the UI element over to the other side. So anyway, what I was saying is, it keeps in hot seat mode. It keeps the previous faction that you played as selected on the campaign selection screen. But when you play as Arnor, you can't select that faction, and that means you also can't deselect the faction. And therefore, when you try to start another campaign, you're playing as Arnor, and that screws everything up. So yeah, that's a bug. Unfortunately, there's really no way to fix that. I guess we could like put an Arnor button somewhere on there so you could deselect it, but I don't know. I'm probably not gonna worry about that. That is something that mostly comes up when you're trying to record videos about the mod and restarting campaigns. So.
How about we say about the goal for the Strider quest to pretty much in the end unite Arnor, that you actually have to bring Aragorn, and as long as he's away, you can actually reunite the kingdom. You have to bring him back into your kingdom to be able to make it happen.
I don't really want to say anything about the Strider quest because it's not finished yet, but yes, that's true. Strider does need to be returned to Eredor. Eventually you have to stop questing and bring him back to Numenos, I think.
Well, rushing the script in the one turn did not work well.
Nope. Doesn't seem like it. So,
Damn it, kid.
Well, that's too big bug right there. That's good to know. You can't
Well,
start the
the
pathway
second
and
bug-
unite the kingdom in the same turn. That's not gonna happen. You crash.
that's not true. I think that you can unite. You can start the Arthedain pathway and unite in the same turn, but you don't need to. You don't need to do Arthedain at all. You just need to go to turn 2 and then hit Shift Z, and that'll unite Arnor. And then you hit Shift Z again, and that unites the Reunited Kingdom. Actually, you're not gonna. If you just hit Shift Z the first time you unite Arnor, you might get the petition. I think, or maybe you might have to end the turn and then get the petition. I don't remember.
We'll redo it. During this
You
time,
know that this bug you guys will likely not deal with, as this is for just testing.
Yeah, this is an alpha build, FYI.
Yeah, the whole shift C, shift A, etc. That is for testing. I was actually thinking about releasing that as a submod for version 2 because somebody on Total War Center requested that. The ability to just instantly unite the kingdoms. And we already have it set up there for testing purposes.
Yes, it is for version 2.
Alright, let's get that wrap in so we can actually jump to the next part. Come on, turn 2, go faster.
There's so much to talk about. I mean,
Yeah.
we're never going to be able to hit on everything that's been done. The
No,
change log for version 2 is just
Yeah, it's massive.
unbelievably gigantic. I try to just impress that on people, but I mean that doesn't really help. We're just saying like there's too much to even talk about.
You also don't want to.
I mean, we could spend
some
hours
surprises left.
talking about the Adine faction. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I'm just saying that you don't want to talk about everything anyway, because like otherwise there's no reason to play the mod if everyone knows everything.
That's true.
If we want to skip on like stuff, like little stuff, probably for the best. And I feel bad for the
Any
cat
new
that's
map?
There you go.
right now.
You have your 2 kingdom.
Yeah, so I guess I'll talk about this for just a second. The Reunited Kingdom script has been changed so that you can now petition Gondor. So as you can read in this little message, you can petition Gondor to accept the legitimacy of the King of Arnor as the king of both kingdoms. And you do that by sending a diplomat down to Minas Tirith. And before you do that, you can send diplomats to Edoras and Dolomoth and try to petition for their support for your royal claim. And this will improve your chances of the Council of Gondor accepting you as their king. So I think that it's a more interesting way to do the script rather than just by force. If the Kingdom of Gondor accepts your petition and Dolomoth accepts your petition, everyone is happy with your petition, then there's a chance that Gondor and Dolomoth will both join the Reunited Kingdom. But if they reject you, Dolomoth is never going to join, but you can still get Gondor to join just by meeting basically the same conditions as in version 1. And so as Gene is showing you, after you unite Arnor, a lot of your user interface updates automatically. There's some Gondorian nobles there. That's probably
Not supposed to be there, yeah.
Gondorian nobles. Yeah, that is because the Gondor BG is higher in EDU than the Arnor BG, so that's an easy fix.
As you see, you don't have the Strider anymore. He's not turned into a full-fledged High King LSR.
For honor.
Usually, you're supposed to spawn into Anuminas because you need Anuminas to unite Arnor. But just
Yeah,
that.
he can't spawn inside Anuminas, but yes, you would control Anuminas by this point in the campaign. It would not just be rebel orcs.
Yeah.
But you actually cannot spawn characters into settlements or into residents, more generally. Which kind of sucks, but that's just the engine for you. So now you've reunited the Reunited Kingdom by some means, whatever means, and it gives you the choice to adopt Gondor's banner, just like in version 1. But unlike in version 1, there are a lot of additional things going on with RK script. So if you exit out of that, yeah, decline that. Or accept it. It doesn't matter. You can just show what happens if you accept.
Too late to decline it.
Oh well. Alright, so if you go down to Gondor, you can see their strategy map models, the generals. Yeah, just scroll all the way down there. Okay. Yeah, so they all have Gondor strat models. They do not have their individual strategy map models, so if you play as Gondor, obviously Denethor and Faramir and Boromir, they all have their own unique models. We can't do that because every faction is limited to only having 10. But what we have done is we've made it so that Gondor and Dol Amroth will have at least Gondorian strategy models. And they also will inherit those models. So that means that any successors of those characters, so if any of those characters have children, they will also get those models. So basically, the kingdom is truly split between the Arnorian generals in the north and the Gondorian generals in the south. So, yes, and you've gotten Dol Amroth to show you as well, because for our testing script, it's just all or nothing. But there are a lot of outcomes. The RK script took me a long time to write just because I was procrastinating. And there are a lot of conditions that are taken into account for the RK script. And there are a lot of possible outcomes. So you can have outcomes where Dol Amroth accepts but Gondor denies, or Gondor gets angry at you and breaks your alliance. There are lots of different things that can happen.
Gondor might even attack you.
Yeah, I think one of the outcomes is Gondor just straight up declares war on you. I think that's like Dol Amroth denied you, and Rohan denied you, and Gondor denied you, and then they just declare war on you.
Everyone denies
So,
you.
and Denethor is alive. I think so. Whether or not Denethor is alive makes a difference as to how likely they are to accept your petition. So again, all of the Gondor generals, we can't guess where they are on the map at the time of the Reunited Kingdom script. All we can do is we can guess if they're alive or not. So if they're dead, obviously you won't get them. But if they're alive, then they just spawn somewhere in the vicinity of where they started at the beginning of the campaign. And there's nothing that we can do about that. That's just the way it is. Small price to pay, I think.
I just realized I'm gonna get copy strike.
Why?
I had the music on.
Oh, yeah, I have it muted, so...
Should we have the next part being our friend that I can't pronounce the name? Skorko.
Yeah, it's okay.
Exactly. Talking about his money script and Khazad-dûm.
Yeah. You know what? Kurtzko is actually Nutcracker. You know the cartoon, the old ancient cartoon Nutcracker. Sorry, I didn't hear anything.
Shall you talk about your new money script and your Khazad-dûm fix?
Yes, of course. Well, let's start with the manuscript. First, I'd like to introduce everyone who is not aware of how the old manuscript worked in the Divide and Conquer and the earlier versions of the Heirs of Elendil. It was, the system to prevent the AI going bankrupt. Basically, it would detect if the AI would go bankrupt below 0 gold. It would just simply set their gold back to 1500. So any faction that might end up a turn with, let's say, 100 gold would remain with 100 gold. But all other factions that were ending turns with below 0, far below 0, it doesn't matter which number is it, they would just get another 1500 gold, which would allow them to train infinite numbers of units. That is one of the reasons for that insane stack spams of Mordor and some other factions. It's not the only reason, but it had a pretty major role. So I thought, yes, and one more thing, because the AI can't handle money pretty well, they would spend most of it training troops, whatever they can, trash troops or whatever. They would end up not building anything. Practically, you could say it for yourself, you capture a settlement, some 200 or 300 turns. Some settlements would still be completely undeveloped with no buildings whatsoever. and there is a pretty big deal about it. When it comes to the barracks event, and many factions would still not train any troops that come after the barracks event simply because they were bankrupt all the time. And even with that 1500 gold, they couldn't build anything. It was just too expensive. Some factions, of course, are rich by their nature, but there is only a couple of factions like that. The vast majority of them are pretty poor, or permanently bankrupt. So I came up with an idea to dynamically reduce the cost of buildings itself, allowing the AI to build all the time, build buildings all the time. It is, it's a bit. Uh, Maybe you can ask a question: how could they build everything for free? Well, there's big limitations to this game, and you can't make the AI be as smart as a human can be. So they will end up being able to build buildings for free, practically. But in return, if they go bankrupt, their gold get set only to 100. So if a faction is bankrupt or on the edge of bankruptcy, they will not be able to train a single unit whatsoever. They will have to build some economy buildings, some mines, whatever, and they will only be able to train troops after they get their economy growing, which I think is a pretty big deal here. And they will in the end be able to field as many armies as their economy allows. They won't be able to train any further than that. Why I say the building reduction was dynamic, because the factions that end up with very little or no gold will get a really massive discount on the buildings. But those who end up in the middle, let's say, the factions who end up with 5,000 gold, so they will still get a discount on buildings, but not as much. Let's say, for example, a 50% discount, which should be a pretty okay. Not countries, rich factions like Khazad-dûm, who end up with millions of gold, ridiculous amounts, of course, will get no discounts whatsoever. There are, I think, 4 or 5 levels. I can't recall correctly. Let me see. I think it's 5 levels of the discounts. Yes, it's 5 levels, and it should be probably, let's say, 90% for the most poor, then 70%, 50%, and 30%. And the 5th level is 0. I might have talked a bit too much about this. So the point of this script was to reduce the ridiculous stack spam of Mordor and generally all factions, but not in the way to make them very weak, but to make their economy actually a bit better, and that economy will be able to support it. So that would be pretty much everything about the money script. Yes, of course. My next project is the Khazad-dûm script, the Dwarfs of Khazad-dûm. I am currently in the progress of completely rebuilding troops from the zero. It will play pretty much differently, very differently from what it plays right now in the Divided Bunker and all the other older versions of this mod, Heirs of Elendil. The idea that Cal had was to remove the first turn settlement from Khazad-dûm and to make it a bit later into the game, maybe some 15, 20, 25 turns into the game that Balin and his army arrive to the city, and they will actually have a fight with goblins, which they will most likely win, of course, because they will come with a pretty massive army that no goblin army can beat back, you know. But there will still be an ever so slight chance that Balin will fail in his expedition, and it will mean a complete failure on the dwarves of Khazad-dûm, resulting in goblins keeping the city, and brings the potential threat to the elves of Lorien, and then if pushing further south, even to Rohan. Of course, uh, assuming the Rohan will survive by that point. And yes, the AI Khazad-dûm would also get attacked by a pretty big orc army somewhere around the barracks event, which would make it a bit more possible for goblins to reclaim Khazad-dûm and kill Balin. Why we do this? I don't know. Khazad-dûm feels really overpowered right now in this stage. They are really strong. By the lore, they end up dying, all of them. Their expedition is a complete failure. We don't want that necessarily to happen every time, but we want to at least give it a chance to happen sometimes. And to also bring up some variety to the campaign, where sometimes Balin's force would successfully reclaim and hold Khazad-dûm, and then rise up and become a very, very powerful late game faction to deal with. And sometimes they would just be crushed by the goblins, and one good faction less on the map. Especially if you play good factions, it would only make the game certainly more fun and challenging. The script is about 50% done at this point. It shouldn't take much longer to write. We'll get some testing, of course, for that. And I think that's all from me right now. Let's get to the next one.
Now, what do we have next?
All right. Well, I've been showing since there was not actual in-game content to show about the scripts. During that time, I was showing off pretty much Arthedain, well, mostly Arnar units. The upgrade path from Arthedain to Arnar in general. As of the next point, it's going to be pretty much a balance. Currently, Mage and Steel and Heaven, we're working on the entire rebalance of the unit in the game. It's been something that's quite heavy. It's a bigger task than we both expected, I think. There's a lot of things to change, and there's going to be a lot of things to change also toward the camping after with auto-resolve.
And perhaps we should explain about why we're doing it, instead of just going into doing
Correct.
it.
You can go for it.
Okay, so if you ever took a look at some of the factions, you will find that a lot of the units just have stats random a lot of times, or don't even follow their supposed theme for their stats. One of my favorite examples is God damn it. Why do I forget their names when I need to remember them?
Which faction?
Huh? I don't. I think it was sorry, I'm kind of derping out right now.
The Con Horse Archers, maybe.
Repeat that?
The Horse Archers for Variags.
Yeah. Horse archers for Variag, like Variag, for example. Can's one of the biggest examples. Can's infantry is supposed to be, well, generally bad, but in reality, their infantry is very much good for what it is actually good as shock infantry. They don't have any infantry that really hold the line, but everything else, their infantry is able to go toe to toe with some of the other factions fairly easily. So you have factions like the Anduin Vale, which if you ever took a look at their late game is on par and almost equal to that of Gondor's, except slightly less defense in exchange for a lot more attack. Jen, you want to continue?
Well, I will just say before jumping into the detailed balance of the whole. So we are planning on addressing balance in the game because currently 99% of the units still have the DAC 2.2 stats, which didn't change much to DAC V3. So the big changes that we are looking at making that I've been wanting to do for a long time. The first one is reducing unit morale across the board. In Divide and Conquer, all of the units have an average of something ridiculous, like 15 to 20 stat mental, which is how likely or unlikely rather they are to rout on the battlefield. So what we're planning on doing is reducing it more to be more in line with the vanilla stat mental, which has an average closer to about 5, I think. And so what this means is that currently in DAC, even your very, very low tier trash units like goblins will fight almost to the last man in every battle. So basically none of your units rout, even when your goblins are being attacked by Mummakill. Right? They're still going to fight to the last man. So what we're planning on doing is reducing the morale across the board so that your units will actually rout. And what this will do is, one, it'll make hero abilities that boost unit morale a lot more important. So all of your unique generals that have special abilities, those will actually be useful. You'll actually have to time them correctly at the correct part of the battle. The other thing that it does is it makes micromanagement of your units a lot more important on the battle map. So whereas currently battles tend to devolve into just these kind of melee fest blobs, we're planning on reintroducing a bit of the micro that was lost from the vanilla game. And hopefully making the battles a little bit more interesting, a little bit more skill-based rather than economy-based. And I would say the battles are highly economy-based in DAC, simply, how much money does your faction have to spend on elite heavy dwarven units or cavalry units, and that wins you the battles. So we're going to try to change up that dynamic a bit. And the other major, aside from the morale, the other major balance overhaul that I had in mind was the cavalry, which is less significant. So the cavalry, we're going to slightly reduce the mass, except for all of the heavy, very heavy elite cavalry, like your Swan Knights, your Gondorian Bodyguard, your elite Khand units, elite Run units. And make them a little bit... Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to explain about why it's being reduced. The thing is, at the moment, if you compare the stat values to what vanilla stat values were, you would realize that almost all the Cav stat values are straight up higher than even the highest stat value for base vanilla medieval 2. Where
yeah, I wasn't aware of that.
It's yeah.
I mean, it makes sense because basically the only micromanagement strategy or tactic that is viable currently is the cycle charge. Right? That's basically the extent of the micromanagement.
And what we would prefer to do is to instead is for them to actually be a level of, hey, my cav can actually do this instead of just simply cycle charging to victory.
Right. So we'd like to nerf the cycle charge a little bit, and at the same time, make cavalry slightly more effective against ranged units. Because in DAC, your cav can sit in melee with ranged units, and your cav will die, even low tier ranged units, which is kind of a problem. I greatly prefer the system in vanilla where you basically melt the ranged units. I think that's a little bit better. It makes you protect your units a little bit more. Whereas in DAC, again, everything just tends to devolve into these melee blob fests. So. Yeah, and then Gene and Heaven had a few ideas about. I don't remember what you said that your base was Gondor for stats, but then somebody mentioned that the base should probably be the Goblins of Moria, or the Snaga. Rather, the Snaga unit is just having one. I think that sounds like a pretty good idea.
Well, base as in this is the average all around. Would be Gondor.
Right.
Like everything that would be the base, but the like lowest point would be Snaga and the highest point would be Unbreakable kind of stuff.
Okay. Gene, why don't you go ahead and load in a Dine campaign and then do the Cardalon pathway just to showcase the female selection audio.
You want me to load the Edine?
Yeah.
Theoden. Mm-hmm.
If you can, without crashing the game. It looks like you were fighting out with Arno then.
Yeah.
I think Arno is the last faction you controlled. What else do we have planned? I am planning on redoing the faction selection menu there because it's bugged out right now. So we just today added the Gundabad faction, which is not complete yet, and I don't think we really have a need to even showcase that yet. But that completely messed up the faction selection screen. And obviously you can see the little maps there. Those are not correct. We're going to remake all those maps, and I think what we're going to do is we're just going to kind of copy Reforged style and just have one large map with the factions selectable on the map. So that makes a little bit more sense to me than having them separate. It's kind of a waste of space. But yeah, go ahead and load in a Dime campaign, and we can show the custom selection audio. This was one of the kind of biggest pet peeves that people had with version 1, that I had as well. The female characters that I added, that was one of the first changes that I made to Heirs of Elendil, one of the very earliest changes. I made Aowen and Galadriel, and they did not have their own models, battle models, or CSMs. And they didn't have selection audio. And that was something that I had just assumed was just a hard-coded fact of life with Medieval 2. But Withnar, I think, if I'm pronouncing that correctly, came up with a script on Total War Center that they're using for the DCI mod that allows us to do custom selection audio for generals. And I think it's a pretty cool script, and it makes the female characters a lot more convincing. So, by cycling through the optional settings, you can disable or enable them individually as well. So now if you press Shift-C, okay, so that event message is missing. User interface. And then you go to Arenia.
What did you say?
And selector, I think you have to have audio on, but you can hear her custom selection responses, which are pretty cool. I actually pulled this audio from the game Age of Empires 3.
Do I know
Hopefully
you,
nobody
friend?
minds.
Yes.
And if you select one of your other generals, like if you select Halberlad or something, you're going to have to move them out of residence. So they can't be any generals selected inside a settlement or a fort or a fleet. They will not have selection audio anymore, and that's the price that we pay for having custom selection for different generals. But as you can see, they still respond with the same voice.
Friend? How much
But
further?
our female journals now have custom audio, which is pretty cool. And they also have custom models. So I think I made that strategy model, and Eisen made the battle model for Armenia.
What are you offering?
Yes.
So, yeah, this is not limited to female generals,
What did you
obviously.
say?
We are planning on also doing this for
With
different
honor.
characters like Aragorn and maybe the Gondorian generals. Different people who are recognizable from the
Making camp
films.
here.
Assuming that we can find high-quality audio files for them. So for
Do
a lot
I
of the
know you,
female
friend?
characters, we just kind of made it up. I think Eowyn's are from Battle for Middle-earth.
Yes.
Galadriel's are from the
We'll
movies. Shout out
My
to
lord.
my homeboy
Yes, my
over at Legends of Middle-earth,
Yes,
which is
my
a Middle-earth mod for the game Age Mythology. He provided the audio for
What
some
did
of
you
our
say?
female characters.
Is
And,
Arwen scripted yet or no?
Arwen is scripted, yeah. She has her audio. She has, I think, 2 or 3 audio responses. And what we've done with the female generals is we've made them less obvious. So they're only going to spawn if you play as that particular faction, for the most part. I think Eowyn is an exception there. She might get sent off the map, but Eowyn and Arwen are actually part of the family tree. So if you start your Enwaders campaign, you can see Arwen. She's a sister to Eladon and Elrohir on the family tree, and because of that, for one thing, her name has to be included along with the rest of the names for that faction, which means she does not have a completely original name, which means that there's a small chance that generic generals will get her name, which is a small price to pay, I think. And Eowyn has the same problem. And that's just so that they can show up in the family tree. So, like I was saying though, the female characters will despawn if you're not playing as those factions. They're not going to be around the map. And in fact, I think Arwen is... she's not going to start on the map either. Eladon and Elrohir are going to start as diplomats, similar to Strider, and they're going to have their little twins quest. And as you can see, when you move the character, they still have their accent responses, which are male by default. And there is truly no way to fix that. Not that anybody has discovered.
I do not
So
fear
when
them.
you move your female generals around the map, they're going to switch back to their male voices. And that's just a fact of life
Scout the area.
for medieval Cedar. But, you know, I still think it's pretty damn cool that we can have even selection audio. I think it's pretty great. It really brings the character to life. And as soon as we will hopefully soon get some new strategy map models and battle models for these characters, that will really bring the characters full circle. So I'm looking forward to that. And I think that pretty much exhausts what we need to talk about as far as the custom audio scripts go.
Galadriel is done.
Galadriel is done, yeah. And she actually has her princess strap model.
And she also got that, what script was it?
Oh yeah, we straight up ripped off DCI. Thanks for reminding everybody of that. So DCI came up with this brilliant script that adds a trait with negative modifiers for generals who are in the Lothlorien region, assuming that a bunch of conditions are met. The conditions are Galadriel's alive, Galadriel's in Lorien, Galadriel, they're obvious. They're all obvious things. So if all these obvious conditions are met, then anybody who ventures into Lothlorien gets this negative trait. that basically slows them down and makes them much less effective in combat. And of course, the script only applies to generals because captains cannot have traits. But it's a cool script. It's one that I thought about adapting to other places, to other areas of the map, but I figured that would probably make it a little bit less special. So, yeah, it only applies to Galadriel currently.
We must save.
And Galadriel is another thing we borrowed from DCI. Galadriel is locked in place when she's AI controlled. So when the Lorien faction's AI controlled, she will not just go on a death march over to Dol Guldur. That doesn't happen anymore. She stays in Lorien until the settlement is attacked, or there's one other condition, but it's been a really long time since I wrote this script. So yeah, if the settlement is attacked or they capture Dol Guldur or something like that, then she becomes unlocked and she can move around the map. Otherwise, the AI keeps her at Karaskalag. And that's that script. There's so many little miniature scripts like that kind of sprinkled around the map. If you start an Onmar campaign, we could talk about that as well, all the little scripts for Onmar. Yeah, for Umladris, that's a good idea. That was another place that I was thinking about using, because Elrond has he has his ring and he can do his little magic trick with the water. Yeah, all the factions are jumbled up. I spent a lot. Yeah, it only shows 4 each on the top. I think you're missing a faction from your selection menu, which means something did not download correctly. You should have 5 on the right-hand side. There should be 5 factions at the top.
I'll look at this, try to figure out which one it is.
But yeah, I spent a lot of time shuffling the factions around in Deskar SM factions a while back to get them all grouped up correctly. And then today I added the Gundabad faction, just completely screwed all stuff. So that was when I decided, like, yeah, I'm not doing that again. We're just going to make a map, and it's going to be kind of similar to Reforged map. So that was really good design.
So here I took a little screenshot to show something in the general chat, but it seems that it appeared on the screen. Sorry about this. A little suggestion that someone did that I wanted to bring in. Alright, so we are in Angmar.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah, so for Angmar, there are a few little scripts. Obviously, the Witch King script that has existed since version 1. Gene wanted to expand on that idea. We talked about this a long time ago, and we've never really done anything with it. But the idea is that Angmar's generals will spawn in after random turn numbers or after events, preferably after Angmar captures a certain number of regions or wins a certain number of battles, or etc. It looks like the banner for the Gundabad faction is messed up there. I don't know how you did that, so it was working fine for me.
I don't know, man. I just copy paste everything.
I think you might have missed a few files. I think you might have missed a couple files. So there's some things like that that are not bugs anymore. Anyway, Angmar's generals spawn in, and this in version 1 was based on whether Mordor controlled Minas Tirith, and as soon as they captured Minas Tirith, they would send the Witch King. And I think we're going to do something similar for version 2. That's probably how it's going to continue to work. But Angmar's really interesting scripts are the winter scripts. So they get special traits. Angmar and Gundabad, they both have these special traits for their generals that give them boosts during the winter season. And as Angmar grows in power, so as you control more and more territories, the length of the winter season actually grows. So it's 1 year is 4 turns, and winter is supposed to be just 1 turn. But as Angmar grows in power, it goes to 2 turns, and then to 3 turns, and then eventually you get a random chance that it will be all 4 turns. So basically perpetual winter. And obviously, we've also reintroduced, I don't know if we reintroduced or if we introduced bonuses for buildings that are seasonal. So like your roads and your farms have less of an impact during winter. I feel like that existed in Vanilla Medieval 2, but I don't remember. Anyway, we've
Right.
reintroduced that. And they get boosted. And then the other cool thing, the other little script that Ongmar has is when the Witch King finally does come north to lead the forces of the Witch Realm, he spawns. Oh, no, I'm forgetting the name of the whites? Barrel whites. He spawns barrel white. Hey, look, it fixed your banner.
I know. I just next turn I need to
That's
fix.
Okay, so anyway, so when the Witch King wins battles, he spawns whites with his army. So every time he wins a battle, he gets 1 unit of whites. So obviously, we've made the whites a lot less OP. Because in version 1, they were just tanks. Like, the only way to kill them was with archers. So in version 2, we're going to make them a little bit more standard. They're still going to be a good unit to have, and if you have a full army of them, you're going to be able to steamroll. But you're not going to be able to steamroll with just a single unit. They're not Oathbreaker level. So in version 1, they were almost Oathbreaker level. So yeah, those are the little scripts that we've done so far for Ongmar. Not much else has changed for Ongmar. We ported in the ward models from Reforged, which were being used in deck version 3. So Ongmar has the snow warg textures that Hummingbird made, and they have the warg models that I'm forgetting who. I know Crimson made the animations. I don't remember who made the models for Reforged. At any rate, a lot of our best assets come from Reforged, so that's just a blanket statement.
Probably either Kuro, Sin, or Koma that made them.
Yeah, probably kind of. So yeah, not much else going on with Ongmar. The kind of the parallel between Ongmar and Adain is strong. It's something that we have always had in mind. It's unlikely that we're going to use. Yeah, I know the animations are for the next version of Reforged. I'm looking forward to it because they're freaking sick. But yeah, not a whole lot has been done with Ongmar, and we're not planning on implementing any of the changes really from Divide and Conquer version 3, where they become a Northman faction and their diplomats look like Bree diplomats and their spies look like Bree. So we're not doing any of that. None of that stuff's happening. So yeah, what's next?
I think we've gone on for so long time. Maybe we should move on to like what's in the future, like after version 2.
Yeah, because we're
or
at
whatever.
an hour and a half now.
Oh, yeah, let's just talk about what we have left to do on the to-do list. So, for my part,
Well, want me to bring the Trilo?
yeah, that's what I have open. I'm looking at right now.
Want me to bring it on the screen or no?
No, because I'm not sure how much of this stuff is actually going to be done for version 2. So, and you know, it's developer content. So yeah, what I'm working on right now is mostly just scripts. Like I said before, I tend to write these scripts really quickly, and then KRCK, I'm not even going to attempt to pronounce it. He goes back over after I've written the scripts and like fixes all the stupid shit that I did. And that's a system that's been working out really well. So I've got, let's see, obviously we need to finish the Gundabad faction, and that is a task that is probably not even going to be done for version 2. That's something we're probably going to cut the faction again, or maybe not, it depends. We'll see how that goes. The other scripts, the Ongmar generals, obviously the Ongmar faction's got to be finished. And I'm planning on rewriting the Dwarven Ring scripts, because those were pretty buggy in the first version of the mod. And they didn't do exactly what I want. So what we're going to do is we're going to have the Dwarven Ring scripts are going to be available for all 3 Dwarven factions. It's going to be highly symmetric, and it's going to be very similar for all of them, highly symmetric. And obviously the Strider quest. That is the last big piece of scripting work that needs to be done is the Strider RPG. That's the last major item on the to-do list. Yeah, Eisen, if you're still here, do you want to
Do I want to what?
talk about what you are working on, what your
Oh,
plans are?
well, currently it's just finishing up Cardolin. It's mostly done. You guys are gonna see the preview in like a week, I'd assume, something like that, whenever Kali gets around to writing it. And I get off my ass and finish the models. Besides in depth, basically just female strategy models, or no, battle models, my bad. Like Galadriel's not done yet. She basically doesn't look at all in game. Eowyn and that woodland girl from the movies we don't mention. And I don't know. After that, it's gonna take a lot of convincing work. But we're gonna start a petition to rename the mod to finally Heirs of Durin, and get on working with the glorious dwarven master race. Yeah, and all my work is gonna be put into that.
Yeah, I hope we get some work out of you on Good to Bug before that happens. But yes, I actually want to do a lot of the 3D work for Good to Bug. I'm looking forward to it. All right. AR. I think we already touched on what you're working on. You've got the Khazad script to finish, and
Yes.
the Balrog script.
That's what
They're
I'm working
bound
on
to be
right
more
now.
things, and of course you're working pretty closely with me on all the other scripts in the game as well. So there's always work in that department.
And someone just mentioned she who shall not be named.
Tariel, yeah.
I'm totally fine forgetting that movie ever happened. To be honest, like I'm good.
What?
It's the same as
Some
RR
scenes were
Denying. They
good,
don't
some
exist.
scenes
They
were
don't
just
exist.
dumb.
Yeah,
For
well,
now, unforgivably.
So Monstro couldn't join us today, but he is working on dedicated playlists for the Adine faction and the Honor faction. So that should be good. I'm really, really happy with the work that he's done so far, just in terms of his audio overhaul. It sounds great. I usually just mute the music in DAC and just listen to Spotify, but I'm really happy with his music.
And I know that he's been also talking about maybe trying to import his run some mod too, if he had time. So
Rune. Yeah, the Rune
yeah,
submod.
we're gonna need to review that.
yeah.
Did you want to talk about what you're working on?
Yep. On my side, I've been trying to learn how to do a custom battle map. Honestly, it's not easy at all. Holy snap. So currently, I'm working on a Kamet Bryn custom battle map, trying to model the 3D model of the tower of Kamet Bryn because it has a unique setup that's supposed to be upward a hill with a town under it. We didn't decide to go with the there's you can just Google like Kamet Bryn and you'll see what I'm talking about. It's a weird settlement that has a big tower and a hill with a town right under it. We didn't go with this. I'm trying to go with more city-like with a big tower over the city type. But yeah, pretty much I'm working on a Kemet Brain map. We're working to maybe, that's a big maybe, Amonsul Ren, whatever it is, destroyed, and maybe a rebuild version of it, also with a Amonsul tower. We also have the full unit balance in work for me.
Yeah, that's going to be a lot of work. And then we have our two junior developers.
yeah, I know it was ruin, but it sounded like ruin.
Yeah, well. So, Heaven is working on balance. And the Veil of Anduin. I think
Yeah,
the Veil of Anduin has got to be one of your favorite factions, right? One of my least favorite.
I love them, but at the same time, I hate them. I love their initial beginning.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Later on, it just becomes stronger Gondor. At least for unit-wise.
Yeah, so you had I don't think we have time to dive into that script. We had a similar idea for a script from Mordor, and we have not touched on Mordor at all.
Honestly, Mordor is probably one of the most nightmarish factions to try to fix up.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's good. Our Vision is also a dev. Trust us. He's around somewhere.
I don't trust you.
Anyway, somebody asked if we were any new devs coming to the team. No, I'm very happy with the team that we've put together here so far. I would like to have a few more dedicated playtesters, though. Really, that is what we're going to start needing help with, because most of the major scripts are done. We have a couple major scripts to go, but it would save a lot of time if we could have dedicated people testing those things as they're rolling off the assembly line. So yeah, that's really a job, and that is basically a developer position, because we do expect our testers to know what they're doing and know their way around the files and help diagnose stuff. So yeah, that is what we need help with the most. As far as adding people to the team, we haven't gotten any offers. We don't have any like super experienced 3D artists offering to join. We have in the past, actually, interestingly enough. But obviously, we could always do with more people who have, modding skills for Medieval 2, especially in the 3D department, the 2D department, animations, that type of thing, battle maps. We can always do with more artists. There's no limit. So anybody who has those types of skills, anybody who has those types of skills, feel free. We could use your help. If you want to bring your skills to the table and help us finish this mod. So,
and help us make Heirs of Elendil happen.
Yeah. I think on the issue of the name, I am not super attached to the Heirs of Elendil name, to tell you the truth. And so as the mod, it's great having a team to work with, because, obviously the Adine faction is my favorite faction. But we have more people now to kind of advocate, to lobby for their favorite factions. And so this has brought a lot of content to the rest of the strategy map. And that means the Heirs of Elendil name is going to become obsolete. So, yeah, could be a name change in store.
Then took the rest.
Anything that needs to be added?
I think we're pretty much good with everything so far. We've been at it for an hour 45 minutes, so I think we pretty much covered everything now.
Yeah, you're gonna have to edit that down.
Editing this fucking abomination.
Yeah, good fucking luck. We need it to be 20 minutes.
Oh man, fuck that. That's not gonna happen.
Preferably under 30. If you can get it under 30 minutes, that would be ideal.
Let's go for 5.
We need to have like a professional.
I can always cut it in like part 1, part 2, part 3. There you go.
We need to do what our
put
heroes
out
and just
an
have a
outtake
script.
section.
We need to just have a script and just have one person just say what needs to be said real quick, and then edit all the rest of it out.
Yeah, everyone has their own script and just follow that and be done with it. There you go.
That's a much better plan.
Yep.
I need to
Future
change
blog will go like that.
The next that you guys are gonna hear from us is gonna be the dev diary for Cardalon, I think. Unless we do another one of these clusterfuckery videos.
Yeah, they're fun.
This is more for rent stuff. We're just renting randomly.
Yeah,
Hey,
that's
calm
what it
down.
always is. Did any of you guys ever listen to the first one of these that I made by myself? It's just an epic rant. It's like an hour-long video. It's just a rant.
I think we'll release an unedited version first, then we'll actually make an edited version to make it more smashed down.
Bad idea.
Mate, I don't want to sit through an hour 46 minutes of content. Oh no.
Skips, man. Alright.
We'll go for the scripted video for the next one, definitely.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Yeah, we'll be more ready for it. With that said, thank you everyone for, well, the one that were on the Twitch. Thank you for listening to the stream. It was a big, an hour 47 minute. That's pretty much an hour longer than what we expected. But thank you very much. Have a good day and see you, as Calistonian said, on the Cardiolan dev diary. Sorry.
And if you have issues, spam Vision.
Have a good day, everyone.